Alrighty, so today we're going to finish up the review for match week number 10 as we're going to look at these last 7 games that all happened on Saturday night. And there were once again some unexpected result that happened, some big upset that I definitely did not see coming. And then we saw whatever happened in Nashville, where that was just an absolute massacre that we saw in that game. But let us begin with the first one, which is Atlanta versus Orlando City. And, I said in the preview, it feels like the tide has started to turn. It feels like all these years that Orlando City is getting frustrated that Atlanta pretty much is the father of them. Well, it seems like now, at least in these last 2 games, Orlando seems like it's the father of Atlanta United. Now, in the first half, not much really happened in the first 15 minutes. The first shot of the game, see Smith missed wide from close range. But really, for the first 25 minutes, it was a bit of a cagey start to this rivalry game. Not much really happened. TRE puts it wide, as that was Atlanta's first shot in the 26th minute before Guzan denied Angulo from coast. Morenchuk would then puts it wide from long range. Then in the 37th minute, a penalty was given to Orlando City. They go to VAR to see whether or not Shalit brought down Murray out in the box. He did. So Orlando goes to the spot. Murray, of course, won the penalty. He was the one that takes it, and he buries it to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando City. Freeman did look for another, but he heads this one wide. Orlando was definitely pushing for another before halftime, but we do head to halftime with Orlando City leading 1-0. In the second half, Moriel would puts it wide from close range. Orlando kind of picked up where they left off, continued to press for the second goal, and they got it in the 51st minute as Alex Freeman would score from Pasalic to make it 2-0 in favor of Orlando City. And then Moriel looked to get on the score sheet again, but was denied by Guzan from close. Smith would then heads it right to Guzan in the 64th minute. It was one-way traffic right now. I mean, Orlando was all over Atlanta in this game up to this point, as Atlanta clearly have given up in the second half and pretty much have not bothered to show up for most of this game. And in the 67th minute, Orlando put the exclamation mark as Marco Pasalic. I mean, what a signing he's been. Who would have thought that he was pretty much a perfect like-to-like replacement for Facu Torres? Usually do not see this happen with teams losing a big goal scored in their team for good reason in terms of a big sale and just replace him with another great player, and that's exactly what Orlando City has done. It feels like Paslic just kind of picked up the mantle that Facu Torres left in this team, and he's now the one that is not only scoring goals but scoring an absolute banger as well. Though as much as it was an absolute banger, yeah, that is one that it kind of came off of a bad turnover from Atlanta United, and yeah, it's safe to say that they were definitely made to pay for that. Atuesta did look to make it 4-0, but he missed wide in the 71st minute, and really for the last 19 minutes was kind of garbage time where not much really kind of happened. I mean, Orlando could have easily got even harder on Atlanta United, but they said, yeah, that's enough. And in the end, they walk away with an easy 3-0 win over Atlanta United. By far the biggest margin of victory that Orlando has ever got against Atlanta United in this rivalry history. And the shots of this one, well, it definitely looked close with 16 shots for the 12 that Atlanta has. Atlanta United failed to put a shot on target. They had 0 shots on goal compared to 6 that Orlando City has. Both teams had 6 shots off target. 3 shots that was blocked for the 5 that Atlanta United has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that Atlanta United has in this game. And I think it's safe to say that I might as well just add the ideas of doing a video talk about Atlanta United and what in the world is going on with this team of not only them getting off to a terrible start, but a 50 million attack should not be having any game this season where they fail to put the ball on target. I mean, this attack has just lost all confidence whatsoever. I think it kind of all started in terms of this bad run because of how bad the defense is, but now it's kind of lingering to the attack. I mean, the attack has just been non-existent in this game. And notice I didn't mention Latte Laugh name in this game. He was pretty much invincible. You might as well forgot that he actually played in this game for Atlanta United. And yeah, things are looking really dire for Atlanta United right now. And like I said, I'm gonna definitely make an emotion index either tomorrow or on Wednesday, and I also will do a video talk about the last two winless team, who of course will potentially break the ice. But I might also want to talk about Atlanta United and this disastrous start that they off to a start that this definitely is not what Atlanta fans would envision. They did not envision another 24 kind of campaign where all the hype surround that things were going to go well for this team. They were going to be a contender in the East, and in reality, they're sitting closer to the bottom of the Eastern Conference than actually them competing at all in the Eastern Conference. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is San Diego versus RSL, and I hate to say it for San Diego fans, but I think they're starting to getting fined down. I mean, and this is not a big surprise considering we saw this with St. Louis when they went on their expansion season, where people forget that as great as St. Louis expansion season was, and them finishing in the first in the Western Conference, I think in any other years St. Louis probably wouldn't finish first in the standings, and the fact that that was a season where the Western Conference was just ridiculously weak. Like nobody could win in that. Well, wouldn't say nobody could win, but there was a lot of inconsistency that was being shown in the Western Conference, and St. Louis kind of was the de facto for first place team during that season. But if you remember, even when they finished top of the standing in the West that season, there were definitely some warning signs, especially in the second half of the season, where not only there was some huge regression that was shown by St. Louis, and teams started to figure things out against them. Well, now it feels like we're starting to see the same thing with San Diego. It feels like now teams are starting to figure out how to play against the San Diego team that likes to have the ball. And I think the other thing that I've noticed, at least in the last couple of games, San Diego has not been able to have more possession and haven't been playing that possession style that Mikey Veras have played in the last couple of games compared to what they have doing that incredible run in the first 7 game of their expansion season. And I think part of that is because the fact that the midfield has really regressed in this team, and also on the defensive end. Yeah, let's just safe to say that they're started to kind of what I worry about this team heading into this season, where the defense was definitely a huge issue heading into this season. And while it was definitely great in the first half of the season, mainly because they don't really have to defend a lot because they had most of the possession. Now that when they do have to kind of defend when teams are going at them, yeah, they're starting to struggle. Now in the first half, the first shot of the game, see McVay miss it wide from close range before Lozano hits it right to Cabral in the 9th minute. It's hard to believe that ever since Chucky Lozano has been back with the San Diego team, that's when San Diego really started to hit the regression kind of pattern, and that's kind of unusual because you would have thought that with them getting their superstar back, that's when they really could continue to take off and hit an extra notch. But there was no doubt that San Diego was on the front foot again. They were looking for the opening goal. Valakari would puts it wide from long range. The shots were 3-0 for San Diego up to this point. So up to this point, it was kind of normal business. It looked like San Diego was kind of toying with RSL in this one. Cabral would then deny Dryer from close before Lozano would hit one right to Cabral in the 36th minute. As San Diego continued to pile on the sustained pressure, they were looking for the opening goal, but instead, against the run of play in the first minute of stoppage time, RSL would score. And it's only fitting the fact that RSL score against the run of play, because I'm pretty sure last week they remember what happened in that game against Toronto, of how not only that they'll be kicking themselves not getting at least a point out of that game, but the fact that they outshot their opponent 23-2 and not even get all 3 points out and didn't get anything out of that game. Yeah, they know a thing about a bit of a smash and grab that they were victimized, and here I feel like they're now the one that is doing the smash and grab, as Diego Luna would score to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL. And keep in mind, Luna was supposed to be suspended heading into this game for the red card, but it was rescinded, and rightfully so, I would say. So yeah, it's pretty clear that he definitely played a big part in this game, and this is also why in the last game, if Luna didn't get sent off in that one, maybe RSL would have probably find a way to score the equalizer, especially coming from the foot of Diego Luna. But yeah, that made it 1-0 in favor of RSL. But that lead quickly evaporate before we head to halftime, as a penalty was given to San Diego not long after, as Catranes brought down Godoy in the box. So here comes Tricky Lozano's from the spot. He usually doesn't miss from the spot, and he doesn't here. He buries it to make it 1-1 in this one, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Ojeda would have a shot that was deflected right to Dos Santos. Now they did go to VAR to see whether or not if that deflection, which was off of Riskov, did he actually handball this one when he deflected? VAR says yes. So now it's RSL turn to go to the spot, and here comes Diego Luna, a chance to give RSL the lead from the spot. And he does exactly that. So just like that, it's 2-1 in favor of RSL, and that's got to be a backbreaker for San Diego, because you got the goal right on the stroke of halftime. You have the momentum, and then you gave away a penalty, and now RSL the one that looks to have the momentum. Though Camuto would look to answer for San Diego, but he hits it right to Cabral. But in the 66th minute, Sam Junko would score an absolute banger, and we definitely saw some amazing goal this week as well. And this is definitely another list on that. Obviously, we know the goal of the week is probably going to be the bicycle kick goal that Dane K scored. I mean that is nailed down is going to be the goal of the week, maybe in contention for goal of the year, but not to discredit in terms of some of these bangers that's been scored this week, and this was just an absolute banger there from Sam Junka. Not a guy that is known to score for long range here, but he connects this one perfectly, and just like that, RSL was leading 3-1 in this one. No one definitely saw this coming with the way that San Diego has been relatively good so far this season at home. But in the 77th minute, Agata looked for another, but he missed wide before Dos Santos denied Gozo from close range. RSL was definitely not done with the three goals. They were looking to try to get the fourth one because if there's one thing you know about the San Diego team, they don't give up. This is a team that even in some of the losses, they find a way to try to come back in games. But at the same time, I also thought that the gaps were all to be seen for the San Diego team, especially on the defensive end. There was a lot of space for RSL to exploit, and RSL was really taking advantage of it. Luna would then hit it right to Dos Santos before Lozano would puts it over from long range in the 83rd minute. Iliski would then hit it right to Cabral in the 85th minute. And then we did have a red card late in this game once again for RSL. This time it's Bodie Hidalgo who got a second yellow card for dissent. Now, I'm not sure what he exactly said. He must have said something really egregious to get a second yellow card for dissent. But yeah, that's going to be something that I don't know if RSL is going to once again appeal for that. I mean, they already appealed it in the previous weekend, was successful in terms of that appeal, but that one was kind of pretty obvious. I don't know if this one is obvious enough where they're going to reprehend from this middle of the week by the MLS Disco, but nevertheless, that's the only down mark of RSL in this game as they win 3-1 in this one. They head to San Diego and head to Snapdragon Stadium and snatch all 3 points like it's nobody business. The shots in this one, 18 shots for the 11 that RSL has, and I believe they also become the first team to be able to go to Snapdragon Stadium and get all 3 points because I don't think San Diego actually have lost a game up to this point. I might be wrong though. 5 shots on goal for the 7 that San Diego has. 4 shots off target for the 2 that RSL had. 7 shots that was blocked for the 3 that RSL had. And possession wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that RSL has in this game. And like I said about San Diego, this is where I feel like they need to make some adjustment. I mean, it is very clear that teams are starting to figure out how to play against the San Diego team, and there's no doubt that Mikey Veras will need to make some adjustment quickly because if he does not make the adjustment, like what we saw with Bradley Carnell in his first season with St. Louis, where he didn't really quite make the right adjustment and the team kind of stuttered in the second half of the season, and especially what we saw in the second year in charge of that team, of how them really faltering, this could quickly go south for the San Diego team relatively quick. Now, moving on in terms of the next match is the Quakes and Columbus. So it turns out this was not a blowout of a game that I was fearing that the Quakes were going to do because coming into this game, I was concerned the fact that they're playing against a Columbus team that is very pissed off after losing to Miami in Cleveland in the last game to end their unbeaten run. And in the end, Columbus does still get the victory. And really, I feel like this game for the Quakes just kind of sums up the season for this team where it wasn't necessarily a bad performance by the Quakes. I thought the Quakes played relatively well in this one, but what's so frustrating about the Quakes this season is one, they can't finish. I mean, they probably have one of the worst conversion rate when it comes to their finishing, and the high expectancy goal rate that they have, and them clearly underperforming their expectancy goal doesn't really help up the fact that that's also kind of tells the story that they're not being clinical in front of goal. And also the defense, yeah, it still sucks. Even when Daniel is back in goal in this one, the defense still at times look terrible for the Quakes in this game. Now, in the first half, Martinez would put it wide from close range because that's the game's first shot. Espinoza would then hit it right to Schulte. I thought it was a good start for the Quakes, at least early in this game. They were looking to try to get the opening goal. The first shot for Columbus, see Arvston puts it over from long range before Russell Rowe would puts it over from long range in the 18th minute. Columbus definitely got into this game, definitely woke up after a bit of a slow start, but the Quakes, for the most part, was doing a good job in terms of limiting those dangerous chances. Columbus probably saw what I wrote that because they started creating some dangerous chances. It started with Arvston flash one wide on the doorstep of goal, but then in the 29th minute, Columbus takes the lead. It's Sean Watsky, a rare goal for him. He's not known to score goals, but he scored here from Herrera to make it 1-0 in favor of Columbus. And yeah, that is some typical set piece defending role from the Quakes. I mean, this is something I've seen before where the Quakes haven't been great defending set pieces. I mean, this season they have definitely been a little bit better in terms of that department, but that just kind of almost reminds me of previous Quakes teams of just being bad in terms of defending set pieces, and here we go again. But in the 31st minute or the 35th minute, I'm sorry, Arango would look to respond, but he missed high on a free header from the corner before Costa would head it right to Schulte in the 38th minute. I thought it was a good response for the Quakes, but again, can they put away these dangerous chances that they create, which has been a struggle this season? And the answer is yes, because in the 40th minute, Joseph Martinez would score from Leroux to tie the game up at one apiece. Beautiful ball there from Bo Leroux to play Martinez through. And if there's something we know about Joseph Martinez this season, yeah, I think it's safe to say that the King is back. I mean, this season he has looked like the Joseph that we saw during his time with Atlanta United. And as a Quakes fan, I'm very happy to see that is the case. And even if you're an Atlanta fan watching Joseph Martinez play, you probably are kind of having that bittersweet moment to see the old Joseph. Seems like he's back to his old self. But in the 42nd minute, Farsi looked to respond, but the shot was clear off the line before Amundsen would head it wide from close range as the Crew were looking to press back for the lead late in the first half. But we do head to halftime tied up at one apiece between both of these teams. In the second half, Muni would head right to Schulte before the post would deny Rossi from close range. The post was not kind to Diego Rossi in this game, but that also came off a bad turnover from the Quakes, which wouldn't be the first time I said about this team this season. Again, this defense at times were kind of optional this season. But in the 54th minute, Chicho Arango was in on goal there, but he puts this one wide before Leroux would cross it wide from close range. Once again, the Quakes were getting some sustained pressure, but again, can they finish these golden opportunity? Well, Arango tried to do so, but he hits it right to Schulte. But then in the 62nd minute, yeah, these missed chances that the Quakes had it come back to bite them in a big way because in the 62nd minute, Columbus retakes the lead. And of course, it has to be Max Arston scoring from Jackson to make it 2-1 in favor of Columbus. I mean, it's almost like this is kind of something that I've always said about the Quakes, where it's kind of given when they do face against teams that when they have to face against some of their former player, or in the case, Max Armstrong never really played for the senior team, but he came through the academy for the Quakes, even played for the MLS Next Pro team, and he's another example of a Quakes player that pretty much was let go to a better team that the Quakes probably shouldn't have done it in the first plays. And yeah, this is he now joins a long list of former Quakes player, whether from the academy or play for the main team that have scored against the Quakes, and it's just very frustrating to see that of course it is the case. But at the same time, I almost kind of got used to it. It's almost like I almost predicted that whenever if a former Quakes player is going to be facing against this team, yeah, there's a chance that they're probably going to score. But in the 64th minute, Preston Judd was in on goal there, but he missed the target because that's what Preston Judd has been doing. He's been doing nothing but seeing chances left and right, just kind of a microcosm of the season that the Quakes have on the attack for the most part. Judd was in on goal again, but once again, he slipped in the vital moment and only puts a weak shot that was denied by Schulte. I thought the Crew was definitely having a lot of problem when it comes to defending these direct ball. The Quakes were putting a lot of dangerous ball and was kind of cutting this through defense at will. And again, this is the thing about the Quakes attack. This attack is very lethal. They have shown the ability that even when they face against some of the toughest defense in the league, they start creating chances left and right. But like I said, it's about putting away the chances. That's been very frustrating to see with this team. Rossi would then puts it over from long range in the 79th minute, and yeah, that was pretty much it in this game. As in the end, the Crew were able to win 2-1 in this one. The shots in this one, 16 shots for the 15 that the Quakes had. No shots on goal for the three or I'm sorry, 6 shots on goal compared to the three that Columbus had. So yeah, the Quakes again have more shots on goal in this one, but again, not showing that clinical finishing. 6 shots off target for both of these teams. 5 shots on blocked with the three that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession the Quakes has in this game. And there's no doubt that for Wilfred Nancy, I think he will be happy that they bounced back after that loss against Miami. Obviously, he might not be too happy in terms of how they play in this one. I didn't think the Crew play relatively well in this one. They were giving up way too much dangerous chances. Where if they do face against other team, maybe there's a chance that they might not have got all 3 points in this one, but it doesn't really matter. They get the 3 points because of their clinical finishing. And again, for the Quakes, I know people will say that eventually Resort is going to come, and there's no doubt that I will give credit to the Quakes playing much better this season compared to last year. Like, the standings doesn't tells it, but I think this team is head and shoulder way better than what we've seen last season, and I can see the ideas that Bruce Arena is doing with this team. But again, it really doesn't matter the fact that you can tell me about how them winning the expectancy goal battle and them eventually saying that these resort is going to come when we're now 10 games into the season and these resort are still not coming. With this team. And again, another reason why I've also said before that, I don't really pay too much attention in terms of the XG or the XGA. I say that, but recently I have actually mentioned it a little bit more in my video because it's kind of hard to not mention it when I'm been hearing it all over throughout the broadcast or even through some of the podcasts that I listen to relating MLS. But yeah, again, I'm just hoping eventually the resort will come. But if they can't figure out their finishing, and also not to mention the defense clearly need an upgrade heading into the summer transfer window. This is kind of how we're gonna see the Quakes. I don't think this is gonna be a team that might have enough to make it to the playoffs. They don't solve these kind of issue. Now, moving on into the next game is Charlotte and New England. So this is definitely one of the most surprising resort of the season, and probably the most surprising resort of the week. I mean, I know the RSL game might be a little bit surprised, considering RSL hasn't really been playing very well, and they have trouble in terms of goal scoring. And you could say that, this is a resort that, maybe won't be surprised considering New England has actually been in a relatively good form. But here they play against the Charlotte team, and this is a Charlotte team that have not lost a single game or draw a single game at home. Bank of America Stadium is an absolute fortress. Rarely any team has been able to walk away with all 3 points, and yet Caleb Porter's side come into this game, and you know, there's just something about when a team finally get their first win and finally start to get the confidence. And I think we're starting to see with this New England team and this Caleb Porter side. Not only his seat is now much more cooler than what we see a month ago, but it feels like there's finally some confidence that is being sparked for this New England team, and that, as the old saying go, winning is infectious. And right now, New England is definitely winning, and they're climbing up the standings in the Eastern Conference. Now, in the first half, Westwood would put it wide from long range before Miller would hit one right to Kalina. I have been very impressed with Peyton Miller so far. He's been one of the key player that has been the revival that the refs have had in these last month or so. But the shots were 3-1 for Charlotte early in this one. Ivasic would then deny Zaha from close before Ajiman would hit one right to Ivasic as he slipped there. So yeah, if he didn't slip there, probably he could have forced Ivasic a harder chance to save a shot. But Pep Biel would then puts it wide from long range before Ganago would head it right to Kalina. It was a lively start to this game, I thought, and both of these teams were getting some decent chances for the opening goal. Heel would then puts it wide from long range before Miller would miss wide from close. Zaha then puts it just wide from long range. I thought the opener was not long coming from both of these teams. Both of these teams was definitely getting some good chances to get that first goal. Ajiman would then hits one right to Ivisic before Campana would puts it wide from long range. Ajiman then missed wide from long range in the first minute of stoppage time. And despite the fact that there was a lot of chances for both of these teams, we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now, in the second half, Abada would put it wide from close before Bronico would head it wide from the corner, as I thought Charlotte was on the front foot again early on. They were looking to try to get the opening goal, but as I said that, Ganago looked like he scored the opening goal for New England, but unfortunately the flag did not agree with him. So yeah, he was offside, and heads up play for that Charlotte defense in terms of being up. That back line definitely stepped up there, kind of play the offside trap, and Ganago unfortunately got caught in terms of that. Pep Biel then puts it over from the header in the 63rd minute before Tukamagi would head it wide on the doorstep of goal. And you just kind of wonder, is these one of these nights where once again both of these teams would just not being able to find their shooting boots and regretting these golden opportunity. And I would say this is kind of more on the Charlotte kind of end, because they were missing golden opportunity left and right that we usually see this team bury. Because yeah, when they didn't put away those chances, it was going to come back to haunt them, and it haunt them in the 77th minute as really, I think the guy that has been in the revival that the Revs has had in these past month has been their captain Carlos Hill. He has definitely woke up and looked like a bit prime Carlos Hill again in this last month or so, as he scored here for Lagoni to make it 1-0 in favor of New England. Now, Charlotte fans are not happy about this because they feel like Polster kind of obstruct the view of Kalina and he was in an offside position. Now, I did look at a couple of times the replay. It was very close. I think Polster might have just been in an onside position, and of course, if you're in an onside side position, and even if you obstruct the goalkeeper, it really doesn't matter because you're in an offside position. It's that if you're in an offside position, then that is where they usually call back. But because he looks like he's onside, even though he kind of obstruct Kalina a little bit, Kalina definitely uh uh died late because of that. He probably got screamed by Polster there. But because of the fact that Polster was in an onside position, that was a total legal play. So just like that, it was 1-0 in favor of New England. Gogomonti did look to respond, but he hits this one wide before Heel would hit one right to Kalina on the free kick in the 90th minute, and then Tokomati would miss a free header on the doorstep of goal. Yeah, Tokomati is going to have a nightmare in after this game of all the chances that he missed. Like he had like 3 or 4 chances that he could have buried it, and it just kind of sums up the night for Charlotte up to this point. They just could not find their finishing boot whatsoever, and as a result, they lose this game. It's a rare loss for Charlotte, not only this season, but also them at home, as the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 7 that New England has. But the shots on goal basically tells the story. Only 4 shots on goal for Charlotte compared to 4 that New England has. 9 shots off target for the 3 that New England has. 4 shots that was blocked for the none that New England has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that New England has in this game. And like I said, there's no doubt that the Revs, what a turnaround it's been for the last month or so. And in some way, this last month or so has single-handedly saved Caleb Porter's job, because the heat was definitely on him, and I gotta give him some credit. I mean, he has eventually found something. It feels like this team finally started to find the chemistry to be what they should be, which is a team that should still be getting themselves back to playoff contention after all the pieces that they move. But for Charlotte FC, I mean, this is a frustrating loss, but it's just kind of one of those games. Every team is going to have these kind of games where they weren't able to show their clinical goal finishing and unable to put the ball into back of net, and they just need to throw that away. I'm pretty sure Dean Smith will just tell his guys that it was just kind of an unlucky resort that they didn't put away the chances, because I think on any other day when Charlotte does find their shooting boots, they probably would have win this game relatively easily. Though I say that, but New England has had Charlotte number, as I mentioned in the head-to-head matchup. New England actually has a pretty good record. Again, Charlotte looking back at the head-to-head meeting between both of these teams. With that being said, I am now going to Sports Sport and now look at the last 3 games to finish up the review for match week number 10. All right, so now let's talk about the massacre that happened in the game between Nashville and Chicago. And if there's one thing what I will say when a team is on the wrong end of a really ugly scoreline is the fact that this is only one game, and that they can definitely regroup as a result of this game. Though it's definitely not easy to do so, but yeah. Nashville, they were definitely feeling it in this game. And this is the thing about Nashville this season. We have seen times when they can play like this and be one of the more dangerous team in the Eastern Conference. And we also have seen where they have not been one of the best team this season and have their struggle. And yeah, in this game, they definitely was on the mark where they were definitely looking like one of the more dangerous team in the East after this game. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game sees Surge hits it right to Brady before Kuipers would hits it right to Willis. The shots were one apiece early in this one. It was relatively competitive, at least in the first 10 minutes. That's all we will see in terms of the competitiveness, because this is when it got ugly. Starting in the 13th minute, where a penalty was given to Nashville as Schaffelberg was brought down by Elliott. So here comes Sam Surridge, who is really now the designated penalty kick taker for this team, and he buries this one to make it 1-0 in favor of Nashville. It would be 2-0 in favor of Nashville just 7 minutes later, as Palacios would score his first career MLS goal from Mukhtar to make it 2-0, and then it would be 3-0 not long after, as Mukhtar himself would get on the score sheet. Brady actually made a great save originally, but Mukhtar was just in the right place in the right time in the back post to tap in for probably one of the easiest goal he would ever score in his career. And then just 6 minutes later, the route really as Muktam would score from the hard to make it 4-0 in favor of Nashville. It was an absolute blitz up to this point. I mean, Nashville, they were absolutely blitzing this Fire D. This Fire D basically have went MIA since the 15 minute. Mukhtar would then look for 5, but he hits it right to Brady. You know what this game also kind of reminds me of now that I look at it? This game really looks very similar to the Seattle versus San Jose Earthquakes game I remember doing the COVID shortened season. I remember that there was one year where the Quakes lost 7-1 to Seattle, and Seattle were 5-0 up after 30 plus minute, and eventually they made it like 7 nothing before we even hit the hour mark. And yeah, we kind of saw the same thing in this game as well. But Mukhtar looked for number 5, but he hits it right to Brady, and in the post, denying Glasgow from close range. Elliott would then hits it right to Willis in the 5th minute of stoppage time. So, Chicago did at least show a little bit of life on the attack. But then their D immediately gave up another penalty, as in the 6th minute, this time it's Glasgow, the one that brought down Surge in the box. There was no need for Glasgow to do that. I mean, he was part of the big reason why this Chicago defense. I don't think they even bothered showed up whatsoever in this game against Nashville SC. So here comes Surge, a chance to score his second goal of the season from the spot, and he does bury it, but just barely does so because Brady did get a hand to it. I don't think this was a good penalty from Sam Surridge. And this is the thing about Nashville. They have had their penalty struggle this season, so it's kind of a little surprised the fact that they were 2 for 2 in this. Consider they had their problem from the spot kick, but this time they buried it to make it 5-0 in favor of Nashville, and that was the scoreline heading into halftime. And it would get uglier heading into the second half as Sam Surridge would score his hat trick for Nahar in the 50th minute. And then he made it number 4 here in the 57th minute. He scored from the hard to make it. Yeah, he made it what 7-0 up to this point. I kind of lost track of the score line. And by the way, with Surge scoring his 4th goal, I think he's now the second player to score 4 goals in a game this season. I think Joseph Martinez didn't he score 4 goals against the DC if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong though. I think he only got a hat trick in this one. Yeah, he only got a hat trick in that game. I almost forgot. So yeah, it's been a while since we have seen players score 4 goals in a game. I think Jordan Morris was the last player to do so when he scored 4 goals against Sporting KC not long after. But in the 64th minute, Chicago basically did a Brazil here as they got one back to make it 7-1, making a Brazil versus Germany scoreline as as Zikanago would score from Haile Selassie to make it 7-1 in favor of Nashville. And this is a bit of a small consolation for the Fire. A great free kick there for Zikanago on a night that is going to go down as one of the worst nights that the Chicago Fire has ever had, not only this season, but maybe in franchise history. This, arguably, I think, is probably the worst loss that the Fire have ever suffered in franchise history in terms of margin. Brugman looked to restore the 7 goal lead, but he puts it over there. Not very often, I say, when a team try to restore a 7 goal lead there, consider that doesn't happen very often. But Elliott would then hits it right to Willis, and then Jasbeck would puts it wide from close range. It seems like it checked out for both of these teams since 7-0, which is kind of crazy to see because I thought when the scoreline is that ugly, maybe we're gonna see as much action left. But no, it seems like both defense just say, yeah, let's make the scoreline even more crazier than it needs to be. But Willis then denied Haile Selassie from close, but in the 71st minute, Chicago would make it 7-2 in this game as Hugo Kuipers would score from Elliott and Zikanago to make it 7-2 in favor of Nashville. Bumbrae did look for number 8, but he was denied by Brady in the first minute of stoppage time. And if he got that 8th goal, they would have become the first MLS team to score 8 goals since the '98 Galaxy did. I think they did it against what was called the Dallas Burn back then. No team hasn't been able to hit 8 goals. I mean, we have seen plenty of times where teams have been able to hit 7, but it's kind of interesting the fact we never see an 8 goal affair. I mean, I see in other leagues we have seen some crazy scoreline before, and some teams score 8 goals, but not in this case. Feels like 7 is almost like the cap that is being set. No matter how much those 7 goals have scored up to this point by an MLS team. But yeah, in the end, just an absolute effort in this game. I mean, I thought the 6-1 beating that the Quakes put against DC was a lopsided affair. I mean, Nashville basically just said hold my beer and decided to make this game even more lopsided by adding an extra goal. I mean, to be fair, I say it's more lopsided. It's still a 5 goal margin compared to the DC in San Jose Quakes shellackings that we saw earlier this month. But the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 9 that Chicago has, 6 shots on goal for the 12 that Nashville has, 4 shots off target for the 1 that Chicago has, 1 shot that was blocked compared to the 2 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to the 41% possession that Chicago has in this game. And I also like the fact that, Greg Berhalter in his press conference, he immediately opened by apologizing to the fans for the display, and rightfully so. I mean, this is gonna go down as one of the most embarrassing display that the Chicago Fire has ever put in franchise history, and one that, again, now we'll see whether or not the mentality of this team is going to be good. Because as I said with the Chicago Fire, even with this embarrassing loss that they suffer, I think they're kind of similar in terms of how I see with the San Jose Earthquakes, where their record isn't really the a kind of a look in terms of how their season has gone. They've definitely played much better this season, in my opinion, under Greg Berhalter compared to to last season. I think that, I know people might laugh at me because how do they play better if they just lost 7-2? Well, they have had some good performance throughout the season as well, but yeah, this is just one of those one where it's just one that you just kind of have to write it off and hope that you can get yourself back in the winning ways, because anytime when you give up so many goals like that in the game, that could be a mentality crusher, and we'll see how Chicago will respond in the next game. But for Nashville, yeah, definitely this is a great resort for you, but obviously this is kind of the one thing that I think Nashville fans want to see with this team, which is, can they find some consistency? Because again, we've seen it this season. This is a team that can have these kind of games. They could show you that they can win 7-2 like this, but they can also show you what they did against Seattle the other week, where they lost 5-0 in that game. That's kind of the frustration when you're basically rooting for a team that that they have a potential to do very well on one week, but it's just kind of so frustrating that the very next week they take a complete 180 and take a huge step back and lose in a big fashion. That's also going to be big to see how Nashville would look heading into the next game, of whether or not if they can ride this momentum heading into the next game and at least find some consistency. That is something that's been a problem for this Nashville team this year. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, to a more normal scoreline in this game between Houston versus Austin. But again, this is another game where it was a bit of a surprise, because the Dynamo this season, it's been a relatively miserable season so far, but you could say that this is arguably the best performance that they put this season. And yeah, for Austin, this is what happened when you don't score a lot of goals, because when your defense started to look a little shaky, as we saw in this one, yeah, no surprise the fact that they didn't get anything out of this game. Now, the first shot of the game did see Dorsey hits it right to Stuver before Barrow with Austin for a shot, and he hits this one wide. Uzuni would then puts it wide from close range. The shots were only 2-1, 28 minutes, as yeah, it was kind of a lackluster start to this game. Pereira would then flash one wide from long range before Stuver denied McLean from the free kick. Bond would then deny Uzuni from close. The game definitely started to open up a bit. Both of these teams were looking for the opening goal, but we do head to halftime with the Dynamo and Austin tied up at 0 apiece in this Copa Tias affair. But in the second half, McGlynn would puts it wide from long range before Bakari would hits the side netting from close. Bossy was then in on goal here, but he completely whiffed one that goes right to Stuvert. I feel like that's just kind of sums up a main Bossy season so far. I mean, this Houston team just have not got anything going on the attack, especially their more important piece just have not got going whatsoever. But again, the chances, at least I would say, was there for both of these teams. But the question is, who can get that opening goal? The answer is the Houston Dynamo, as in the 61st minute, he did it again. Andre Linger, he scored last week and came off the bench and got a dream debut. He scored another goal here to make it 2-0, or not 2-0, I'm sorry, but 1-0 in favor of the Houston Dynamo. And in some way, it was a gift too, because Wolf basically put this one right to Linger on the clearance, and Linger still had to do a lot in terms of finishing that chances. It was definitely a great long range goal, but that is one that, yeah, Austin would absolutely love to have back, and one that Wolf would definitely not want to look back on the study of the mistake that he made in that moment. But in the 64th minute, Ponce looked for another, but he hits this one wide before he hits it right to Stuver in the 74th minute. Houston was definitely having the momentum. They were hungry to trying to shut the door on Austin in this Copa Tias matchup. McGlynn would then puts it wide from long range, but in the 78th minute, they do shut the door here on Austin. As Ezekiel Ponce, it's been a long time since he have scored going, and you can see what it means when he celebrate this goal. The relief in his face says it all as he scored here from Dorsey to make it 2-0 in favor of the Dynamo. Gallagher did look to get one back for Austin, but he hits the side netting before McGlynn puts it just high from long range. Yeah, McGlynn was definitely not shy in terms of scoring from long range, and we know he can definitely score from long range, especially doing his day with the Philadelphia Union. Forgery would then puts it wide from close before Stuver would deny Escobar from close in the 5th minute of stoppage time. But in the end, Houston they get this Copa Tijas win in this one as they win 2-0 in this one. Easily their best performance this season under Ben Olsen. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 9 that Austin had, 2 shots on goal for the 7 that the Dino has, 5 shots off target for the 6 that Austin had. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. So, yeah, for Dynamo, this maybe a win that can really start to kickstart their season. Again, it's been a relatively miserable start to the season for them. Let's see, maybe this will get them going. But for Austin, yeah, this is what happened when you don't score a lot of goals. You're really heavily rely on your defense, and for the most part, this season, this Austin defense has been really good. Not in this game though. I mean, this game they probably have one of their worst defensive performance in this game, and they were made to pay because of that. Now, moving on into the last game on this board. And the last game we're going to talk about in this review is Colorado and the Seattle Sounders. So, yeah, in the end, this was a game where I think the Rapids will definitely be kicking themselves that they didn't get 3 points in this one because they created more of the chances in this game compared to the Seattle Sounders. But unfortunately, they just weren't able to be clinical for most part of this game. Navarro with the first shot off the game, but he was clear off the line before Bassett would heads it over from the corner. And besides those 2 chances on the set piece, there wasn't really much that happened from open play, at least in the first 18 minutes. In fact, in the 18 minute, we saw the first shot for the Sounders, and really the first shot from open play sees Ferreira puts it over, and then the post denying Bassett as he was in on goal, and that kind of came off of a WTF turnover from Seattle as well, and they got away with one there because yeah, Cole Bassett he has definitely been much better when it comes to his finishing compared to previous season, but it feels like this is kind of almost a throwback when he was just been snake bitten by the post over and over again here, and that's exactly what happened in this moment as well. In the 34th minute, Hansen would deny Rothra, but he did allow a rebound. The young goalkeeper and Wasowski was there to pounce on it, but he wasn't able to put this one on target. And it's safe to say that the new goalkeeper, the young netminder, is very lucky. The fact that he got away with one because that would have been a nightmare way to concede your first goal in MLS play and on your debut as well. That is one goal that can really crush the confidence of a young player. Though to be fair, for the rest of the game, I thought Nico Hansen did relatively well for the Rapids, and even with the one goal that he conceded, there was really nothing he can do about. But Atencio would then puts it wide from long range. Imagine if Atencio scored in this game. I mean, he will have definitely have confident feeling facing against his former team and a team that he's been pretty much throughout his entire career. But in the 40th minute, Henson would tip Kosi Rienzi from the cross as Kosi Rienzi was trying to do a little cross shot there. But both of these teams was getting some good chances. Who can get that opening goal? The answer is the Seattle Sounders, as in the 44th minute, the Moose has definitely been loose in these last couple of games, as Muswaski was scored for the third consecutive game from Kosi Renzi and from Fiera, that is to give the Sounders a 1-0 lead. I mix up with Fiera with Pereira when I talk about this game. I didn't really sleep very well last night, and with the way that I've been spending most of the time writing this board while I'm a little tired, you can definitely forgive me for making some mistakes that I did in this review. But anyway, we do head to halftime with the Sounders leading 1-0 in the second half. Navarro would heads it wide from range as Colorado immediately on the front foot trying to get the equalizing goal, and they do exactly that. As in the 54th minute, Mihajovic would score to tie the game up at one apiece. And while this was a clever free kick there from Mihajovic, he must have said something to his teammate when he looked at the setup of the wall by the Sounders. The setup of the wall was just absolutely horrendous for the Seattle Sounders. I mean, there's a reason why nowadays in MLS we always see a player lying down on the ground, especially when a free kick is being taken pretty close to the 18-yard box, and the fact that the Sounders didn't do so, and the fact that I think Mihajlovic kind of realized that that Sounders wall was going to jump, and even when the Sounders wall jumped, they jumped really high. I mean that was a little bit too high in my opinion, even for a short range goal, but heads up play there from Mihajlovic to catch that. But for the Sounders, that's just poor from them. I mean, they have to send a man put lying down under the wall. There's a reason why a lot of teams are doing it. It's to prevent those low drain free kick that is going to be sneak under the jumping wall there. Navarro did look to take the lead, but he heads it right to Fry before Yappy would puts it over from close range. But the momentum was with the Rapids up to this point. They were pressing to try to get the lead. Awazian would heads it wide from close in the 77th minute before Rusnak with a rare second half chance for the Sounders, but he puts it just wide on the volley. Yeah, the Sounders were kind of mostly bunker mode up to this point, and also maybe this is kind of the time where the fatigue started to catch up to them, as you usually see the case with teams started to show that fatigue in the second half, especially playing in altitude. But in the second minute of stoppage time, Cabral would miss wide from close before Fry would deny Cabral on the header. Rapids was pressing hard to try to get the winning goal. Seattle was just hanging on for dear life for that crucial roll point, and they do exactly that. As in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. Shots in this one, 14 shots for the 8 that the Sounders had. 3 shots on goal for the 4 that the Rapids had. 3 shots off target for the 8 that the Rapids had. 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Sounders had. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to the 46% possession the Sounders has in this game. And again, there's no doubt the Sounders will be the more happier side coming out of this. They were a little bit shorthanded coming into this game. I believe Jordan Morris didn't play in this game, but yeah, to get a point in a place that is relatively tough to get all 3 points, especially playing in altitude, they would absolutely take it. But for the Colorado Rapids, they'll be kicking themselves to not get all 3 points. And these are kind of the games when you're the better team and when you have the chances to win the game. These are kind of the games that the Rapids hope that it's not going to come back to haunt them in terms of 2 crucial points that they drop later in the season when they probably could have picked up in this game against the Seattle Sounders. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of match week number 10, looking at these last 7 games that is. And as always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this review? We're going to have another full slate of action that's going to be happening in May. And as I said, I got a lot of videos that I'm going to have to do in these upcoming times. Obviously, I still have to do the emotion index, which most likely I'll do tomorrow, as we're now at the end of the month. And then, of course, I'll do the video talking about the last two winless team and who probably get their first win, and then maybe even do a video about Atlanta United and the struggle that they're facing in the beginning of this season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.